This was tough. Don't ever, ever, ever let anyone tell you it wasn't. But it is the proudest I've ever been of my teams. And in the future, people will write this up as a how to do it book of how you get through something impossible. It was impossible. It shouldn't have been possible. And I'm still talking through and working through how it was done. You look at it on paper and it just can't be done. And yet we did it. We went through doors like that and it was scary every single day. And, you know, I was with them about once a week. There were people who did this 5-6 days a week, the best part of 2 years. This is Stoke Hospital, and I show you this photo because this is a mother and daughter nursing team on Christmas Day, before we've got vaccines, going on to shift on Christmas Day. And you can see what that is, you can see how that feels. And yet they went, and yet they did that.
I go back to this summer and look at the Lionesses who won the Euros, the first tournament England have won since 1966. And I think about the cohesion they showed. The day after they won the title, they won the trophy, they released an open letter to, well, it was actually to the two prime ministerial candidates at the time. They thought they were going to get one of them. Who knew we were going to get both? And they demanded a change to the education of girls in PE. They said that we want every girl to be able to play football at school. Currently, only 63% of girls can do that. And this was their social purpose. This was the glue that was bringing them together. They wanted not just to win the trophy, but to turn that success into something positive and social, driving social change, using football to improve the world. That's a really binding element of this team.
Citizen. So, for example, when I teach my MBA students, it's like, okay, well, how are you managing your attention online? How are you managing your distractions? How are you judging your sources? How are you understanding when the algorithm is manipulating you? How are you designing an information diet that is actually aligned with a very diverse and, say, neutral worldview? And ultimately, it's a skill set, right? You need to be able to identify, oh, this algorithm wants to manipulate me and it wants to use my dopamine and generate outrage in order for me to keep clicking. Oh, this influencer on Instagram doesn't make me feel good about myself. And so it makes more sense for me to start from the beginning and say, what type of experience do you want to have online? Do you want to learn? Do you want to connect? Do you want to be informed? And then how do you put yourself in the driver's seat and then build what I call an informational strategy? So how do you build one for yourself that allows you to not be caught up in it?
Medical gatekeeping. So this is the one that always upsets me the most. For the whole of the UK, the average right now, if you were referred by your GP to see a gender specialist, you would average 6 years for your first appointment. It's written into the UK's governing documents for the NHS that nobody would wait more than 18 weeks for a specialist referral. Think of ear, nose and throat appointment. If you had a horrendous case of tonsillitis reoccurring, you would see somebody within about 3 months. For trans people to see a specialist, the current wait is 6 years for the UK. However, with the way that London is populated, staff cuts, and a lack of training to new doctors, if I was referred as an adult to the Tavistock Centre in London, which is the main point of treatment, today I would get my first appointment in 17 years. And that's not it. That's the first appointment. Once you've seen your first specialist, that isn't the start and end of your journey. That's just step one. You will not receive medical treatment until after your second appointment. Once you've had your second appointment, you will then be waiting on average 10 years for any gender-affirming surgery.
Yttrium. There's a type of yttrium that's a major component in nuclear waste called yttrium-90. And we can use it for all things to produce nuclear medicines. And the way that we do it is we take yttrium-90 and we put it into little plastic beads. And we inject those plastic beads into the arteries that supply blood to cancerous tumours. And as the radioactive yttrium propagates through the tumour in these beads, it eventually gets stuck. Okay? It gets lodged in the capillaries and the veins that feed cancerous tumours. And as it radioactively decays and releases its energy, it essentially fries the tumour from the inside out, causing it to shrink or even disappear completely. And I've worked personally with this stuff before, and like I said, in the lab, it's very sterile, it's very sort of academic. You're in the fume hood, you've got your pipettes and your notebook and your chemistry set. But the nice thing about nuclear is you're never too far away from the problem you're trying to solve. And this is a problem that was solved with yttrium-90. This chap was given 12 months to live after being diagnosed with bowel cancer. And after a course of yttrium therapy, this photograph was taken 5 years later. He was still enjoying gardening, golf, and time with his wife. And he was quoted in the article as saying he feels like he got his life back again. Life began again. And this is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about science's ability to solve problems and lower the total amount of unnecessary suffering in the world. We can recycle nuclear waste and use it to make novel cures for cancer in nuclear medicine.